Asante sana, asante sana. Thank you so much, thank you so much. Mambo to everybody in the audience. Thank you very much for being here with you today. Thank you to our local artists who have enlivened this welcome in your honor. My name is David Lecoque. I'm the CEO of the Alliance for Rural Electrification. We have a very short welcome, at least from my side, and then we have a few eminent speakers, VIPs, that have taken the time out of their busy agendas to be with us here today. Next slide, please. So what is, next slide still. So what is ARE? ARE that is the organizer, the main organizer of the event here today, in the honorable presence of the minister, as well as the ambassador, IRENA, the African Development Bank. And this is actually our main annual investment forum. It's called the Energy Access Investment Forum. It's the first event of nature that we do since the pandemic. And for that, we are very excited and happy to be so warmly welcomed here in Tanzania. So for which we say a big asante sana to you as well for this warm welcome. Next slide, please. So we, of course, would like to say also a big thank you to the partners that have made naturally, the European Union as the term Get Invest for their unwavering support. But as you see, also others, including the African Development Bank, NG, Sagem.com, and Schneider Electric, all present here today. TX and Waterkey, and sponsors and bronze. It's ACF, Burden, the National Okra, which have outside in the exhibition area. We have come in next days. We would also like to say a big thank you to our strategic partners. First and foremost, of course, the partners I just mentioned, as well as the French government here represented today, and our local counterpart, Tarea, represented by Mr. Prosper Magali, somewhere in the audience, without which this would have been a very difficult proposition indeed. Naturally, I will also point out UNIDO, SE4All, and IRENA that are also represented here with Director Gurbuz. Next one, please. So very briefly, where are we in terms of figures? They are hard to budge, but they're budging a little bit. So we have 600 million people still without power, almost 3 billion with a terrible power supply and unreliable supply. And so we need, as we know, to accelerate the rate of deployment of electrification threefold. And as we know, as well, according to independent analysis, more than half of those connections will be done at least cost through distributed renewable energy systems. Next slide, please. So, but it's not only about providing electricity and all the things that it can power, including economic development. It's also about bringing green jobs to the market where this infrastructure both directly and indirectly, with our part, which will make a short allocation later today. And finally, it's also the idea to, as fast as possible, substitute all these diesel generation capacity that we have with cleaner, more reliable, and cheaper renewable energy capacity. Next slide, please. So for IRE, where does that leave us? We, as IRE, as the oldest organization of the sector, we, at last year at the UN's first dialogue in 40 years on energy, have made a rather substantial commitment where we have said that on behalf of the third, be aligned with the 7 strive, our private sector within the association, but also outside, to help them deliver electricity to 100 million people across the developing nations, and so create more than 5 million green jobs and help avoid more than 1 billion tons of CO2 emissions. Because indeed, next slide, it is very much in our DNA to be that bridge. On the one hand, the private sector should bring together, and the public sector with whom we cooperate on various levels to have a public-private cooperation, also thinking of the other stakeholders, such as NGOs, to get those connections built on the ground, to on this stage, but also the activities that this, we can maybe see the breakdown. Activities such as this one, business delegations, market intelligence, whatever we can do to accelerate market come to the private sector, and that the private sector is helping the government to deliver on targets, that is very much in our DNA. The same with scaling investments. We are happy to host more and more financiers inside our membership. For that, we have made a financier circle to also be the voice of that is actively cooperating with public partners to, let's say, refine and help fine-tune, tailor specific investment instruments. In terms of innovation, we have seen that renewables have not in the least been made possible on a large scale by the fall in cost and so on. So, and the constant improvement in this technology. So this is now also a core pillar of our work. And last but not least, we are in this for the long haul. So we want to embed, and we are embedding sustainability across the sector through things like technical certification schemes, things like on-demand, basically whatever we can think of, and preferably in cooperation with the partners that I mentioned before, to make it a reality on the ground and something that is very useful. Yeah, next slide. Yeah. So of course I cannot closing with a big warm welcome and thank you all the new members that all have last year, we're now approaching 200, from SMEs to large corporates, developers, suppliers of technology, investors, you name it, we have it, and therefore we also, next slide please, would like to, on behalf of our membership, welcome you and encourage you to have all those discussions. That's why we have long coffee breaks and lunches during this program, and receptions tonight. Next slide please. Coming to the end. Yes. Some of the partners I mentioned before, there's of course also the Energy Catalyst that I think I didn't mention earlier, but we can go to the next slide. Club ER, the ECRES, and most of the other associations are represented here today because we are also very happy to welcome 8 country delegations from various African nations that have made the effort of coming over here today. Next slide. Yeah, next slide. Okay, well, it's coming indeed, finally. We come to the event. So in terms of the event, what do we want to achieve here? What is, let's say, the benchmark against which we would like to be assessed after the end of the 3rd day here in beautiful Dar es Salaam? It's that, first and foremost, this is an investment forum in energy access. So we want to enable and foster business and investor partnerships. So this is the idea of being here in the exhibitions, in the breaks, and in the receptions, urge you, of course, social as much as possible and make those partnerships a reality for the benefit of the people on the ground without electricity today. Naturally, it is also a change. There were a number of announcements being made, publications being presented. And last but not least, we want to scale and create those investments in the private sector, as well as some government that can not only reach the target, but far are now reached, because I think people will want to wait. Next slide, please. In terms of patents, we are extremely proud to say that here on the ground, as well as we have a total of 1,149 live streams. More than countries being represented. You see a number of flags here today. More meeting already before start being set up, let's say, and allowing is that of the participants here is private sector. Yeah, the investors more than almost which means the audience that's to be here, invest in the sector as well as work with the governments to, let's say, enable those targets. Next slide, please. In terms of the agenda, we have some welcome remarks by, of course, a few eminent speakers, which I will introduce in a moment, followed by panel discussion on catalyzing investments, and then there will be a coffee break, including a press conference for a few of the eminent speakers with the agenda. Next slide. For those of you who would need the Wi-Fi and haven't found it yet, password is we care. J'ai oublié de dire in French, my team has been fantastic in the preparations. One of those things that we have put up is also translation. Donc, il y a pour les participants francophones qui viennent de différents pays, y compris les délégations, il y a des casques et des traducteurs qui sont disponibles. Vous demandez à n'importe quelle hôtesse et comme ça, vous avoir la traduction de français vers anglais. So in English, we have translation available for those who prefer to listen into the French language. We have a translation. We have the room here. There's another room down the line, provided in both, and making will be on the ground floor. So, in lunch, you will have received, or you will receive vouchers indicating which room or which restaurant you invite to have your lunch in. And then perhaps lastly, on the technical management support, you can you have a different kind of badge or there is also, of course, the Get Invest matchmaking team that is at the top of the security meeting. Our event anticipating the quest PowerPoint availability, yes, fill in the survey. We have always continued. Next slide. Matchmaking, it's in the Zanzibar room on the floor at the end of the day. As you see, we have more than 330 people here present, so please make sure you speak as much as possible. Next slide. to take part is shown on the screen. And is of you are welcome to go to that. If you book last but not least, we have a few of our members that have come forward to organize this both in Tanzania and we have the representative from our group and wave in the audience already, but he will shortly, and there's what Abraham HT, who is in the audience right register. Well, I'm very happy to then once again welcome you to this show and for the honor to Ambassador Manfredo Fanti from the European Union to Tanzania is introductory.
Makamba of African Bank and of course of IRENA. First of all, I would like to say that we are extremely pleased that this meeting is taking place in Tanzania because this is a country which has a great potential for the development of renewable energy. There are many opportunities, so it is certainly a very welcome initiative to be here. And I would like to say karibuni sana to all the guests who have come from abroad. In Europe, the European Green Deal, our Fit for 55 package, and the new external energy engagement will continue to be roadmaps in our green transition. This will allow Europe to reach carbon neutrality by 2050 through energy savings, diversification of energy supplies, and accelerated rollout of renewable energy to replace fossil fuels in homes, industry, and power generation. The geopolitical tensions and volatility in energy markets that they cause disrupt energy access and trigger serious economic consequences. In Africa, for instance, storing processes have had enormous impact on electricity generation, in turn increasing production costs. In West Africa, generators account for over 40% of electricity consumed annually. The rising cost of natural gas also makes utilities electricity much more expensive in markets like Ghana, Ivory Coast, and Nigeria. The competitive and changing geopolitical framework in mind, the European Union has elaborated a strategy named Global Game, with which it brings sustainable high-standard investment in a respectful partnership. You step up its between 2021 and 2027, Team Europe, meaning EU institutions and EU member states, with up to 100 billion euros in invest climate, energy, transport, health, education, and research. The Global Gateway will be delivered by the European Union and the member states with their financial and development institutions, including the European Investment Bank and the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Global Gateway draws on the new financial tools in the EU multi-annual finance 2020 and 2027, as I said, which include grant, loans, and guarantees to leverage public and private investments in priority areas. For instance, in Africa, European Union main initiative on energy is Africa EU Green Energy Initiative, contributing to Africa's ambition to increase renewable energy generation capacity by 300 gigawatts by 2030 and secure access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy. There will be a particular focus on certain issues. First of all, increasing regional electricity interconnections and market integration. Secondly, developing just energy transition partnership with African countries. Third, promoting with countries on clean hydrogen production and supporting the regulatory environment via technical assistance and policy dialogue, with a particular emphasis on rural electrification policies and planning, technical standards and monitoring mechanisms, level playing field for distributed renewable electricity, and mini-grids auctions. The EU is planning to reach these objectives through innovative and financial instruments. Firstly, Team Europe is a prerequisite for success. This is about achieving great scale impact and truly transformational project. Secondly, the European Fund for Sustainable Development Plus, which will help to tap into leverage potential in using blending for a better business environment. We expect these new guarantee facilities to better mitigate investment risk as it builds on the experience of the previous external Fund for Sustainable Development. In particular, the European Fund for Sustainable Development will make available up to 135 billion euros for guaranteed investment for infrastructure projects between 2021 and 2027. And up to 18 billion euro will be made available in grant funding from the EU budget. European financial and development finance institutions have up to 145 billion euro in planned investment in volumes. And finally, let me say about policy dialogue and reform. This increased financing has to be completed and framed by a policy dialogue with other countries and organizations in the areas of and investment. Achieving universal by 2030 also require enforcing the enabling policy regulatory frameworks, enhancing social economic inclusiveness of energy access, and aligning the cost, reliability, and affordability in service. So, in conclusion, we stand at a time to shifts in technology, geopolitics, climate, and energy demand that we redefine the energy landscape for the years to come. Amidst these challenging and fast-paced shifts, there is momentum to deliver a just energy transition and establish long-term and mutually beneficial partnerships. The past 10 years of progress in the field of energy are an indication of go in the next 10 years. Then there is a hope for the future. This forum is an opportunity for discussion and an effective networking among the different players of the energy sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for your eloquent remarks. And indeed, we look forward to deepening this and seeing this deepening of commitment of the EU financing, indeed, with the Global Gateway in particular. I'm very happy to introduce our next opening speaker, which is Director Gurbuz Gonul from the International Renewable Energy Agency. So, Doctor, would you like to make a few opening remarks? Thank you very much. Welcome.
Thank you very much, David. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to address you today on behalf of our Director General, Francesco, who is unfortunately not here today. And I would like to warmly greet all of you with our long-standing partner, RE, Alliance for Electrification, for putting together such a great part of it. It is also to see that the decentralized renewable energy business and community is getting with the view to fostering partnerships for stable energy access, decarbonization, economic growth, and fighting against climate change. Access to energy is a key enabler for the achievement of several sustainable development goals, and serves in many ways as the golden thread that connects our delegation, health access, economic growth and livelihoods, and climate and environmental action. The latest tracking SDGs developed by IRENA and several partners revealed that the number of people without energy access has dropped dramatically from 1.51 in 20 to under 800 million today. It's a bit higher number than what David mentioned. The rate of growth of the decentralized renewable energy sector has been staggering, especially across Africa, and the statistics show it. IRENA analysis indicate that the total off-grid renewable energy capacity has increased threefold, with hydro mini-grids growing by 56%, interestingly, and solar off-grid solutions enjoying a stunning six-fold rise. Despite these impressive figures, off-grid renewable energy capacity only at 3% total installed in energy in Africa. Clearly, a lot still needs to be. As many of you would agree, decentralized renewables would account for a large part of new access till 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, IRENA shifted from the approach to the one aiming at improving livelihoods, stimulating economic growth and economic activity, and reducing poverty. Our work, health energy and food energy space over the past several years started to bear fruit. Here, our approach is simple. Conduct country-specific viable tests for integrating renewable electricity solutions into agri-food and health service chains, translating these assessments into specific investment project proposals that can benefit from IRENA's project adaptation framework. Pilot implementation is approach in West Africa and Hindu Kush South Asia is under finalization, and we are now rolling out to additional African countries. Furthermore, we are expanding decentralized renewables in niche areas with a surprisingly high demand, such as UN peacekeeping missions or humanitarian assistance. We have also recently added the women empowerment dimension to our long-standing entrepreneurship support program, and we'll organize dedicated call for proposals targeting women entrepreneurs. So our work in that space is expanding exponentially. Through all these varying work streams, our focus is to trigger investments and accelerate action on the ground in markets in of greater support. That's why events like AR Access Forum are so important, and I will support this. After a long delay due to the pandemic, we are also finally initiating the IRENA's investment forums with a major event. The G20 Transition Investment Forum will be co-hosted by G20 Indonesia Presidency, and together with IRENA, and be held back-to-back the G20 Energy Transition Ministerial. We aim to bring together ASEAN and G20 leaders to leverage the ability of decision makers to produce robust enabling environments for energy transition investments, as well as working with developers, private sector, and finance community to prepare bankable project pipelines and facilitate access to sustainable finance through our project facilitation platforms like Climate Investment Platform, as well as Energy Transition Accelerator Financing Initiative. In the same, we will host a West Africa Investment Forum in Nigeria in early November. That will take place under the umbrella of Nigeria International Energy Week, which will also host the ECOWAS Sustainable Energy Forum and IRENA's flagship off-grid event, International Off-Grid Renewable Energy Conference and Exhibition. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, we will talk about our collaboration with the private sector, because we consider the private sector a key component of the global transition and have already had several platforms such as National Alliance, which we learn directly from the work from the private sector and deliver on key issues related to renewable energy. But recently, we have stepped up our engagement with the private sector to a new level of collaboration with all private institutions that are transition and those which share IRENA's vision for promoting energy transition. We are prepared for such a there are examples that we initiated a number of times across the globe. With this, let me conclude my remarks and wish you all very fruitful and engaged versions over the next couple of days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gonul, for these opening remarks, and we definitely look forward, indeed, to the G20 things and the Western ones and all the other ones that we will be, let's say, hopefully working together on. Because indeed, it is this sort of activity not only in one market which we focus, but indeed really international. It is in all the markets where electricity access is necessary that we should focus our efforts. So. Our speaker will be Dr. Daniel Schroth, who is Director of Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency in the African Development Bank. So, Daniel, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. And first of all, Honourable Minister, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, it is a true pleasure here in Dar es Salaam for the 2022 of the energy and to see again my time to be able to meet people, all this conversation, happen by video conferences. I think this is testament to the fact that energy access, the decentralized energy system, is no longer a niche market, but it's really entered the mainstream, and it's really critical to sustainable goal number 7 in Africa. Let me congratulate us for rectification, in particular, first of all, for hosting in Dar es Salaam these days, but also for the efforts that have been made over the last years in terms of increasing membership, but also in terms of increasing partnerships with African renewable energy associations across the continent. We support also the African Development Bank through the financing of the Alliance for Rural Electrification's Africa desk. And we're also a key partner to the Alliance for Electrification, and will also have the pleasure to co-host next year's event in West Africa at the borders of the African Bank in Abidjan. It is also fitting that this event takes place in Tanzania. Tanzania has been, as many of you know, a pioneer in terms of grid rural electrification, was the first country to stop a robust framework, for example, for mini grids in the country. And I've seen has been made by many of the private developers here in Tanzania, with 100 mini grids operational and working, and providing access to well over 100,000 persons in rural communities. Ladies and gentlemen, by progress, such as here case in Tanzania, we are seeing the figures from the latest words on energy access in Africa, and the reality and the truth is that we're not on track to meet SDG 7, universal access to energy, electricity, and access to clean cooking by 2030. In fact, the global pandemic has led to an increase in the number of people without access to electricity. There are 4% more Africans without access to electricity in 2021 than in 2019. And close to 8% of the energy access deficit globally is now in sub-Saharan. So if the focus really has to be on Africa. It's also clear, highlighted, that the COVID-19 pandemic has had a negative impact on the energy access sector. Many companies have been struggling with their supplies, further compounded, of course, by the Ukraine war. We see diminished capacity of consumers and customers to pay for electricity. We see deterioration of portfolio for many companies, and also see increased volatility of local currencies. Yet at the same time, and I think maybe it's an optimistic note, also seen the strength of the energy access sector despite these crises. And I think I would like to congratulate all of you who've been working tremendously hard despite these headwinds, and ensuring that we're not taking a step back in terms of providing access to electricity that is so critical for economic development at large. I think some statistics are encouraging. Looking at these statistics, the Global Off-Grid Lighting Association, GOGLA, that sort of saw increased growth again in the second half of 2021. And obviously, we all hope that these trends continue positively in the course of 2020 beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, what Einstein found is famous on that in midst of every crisis, opportunity, I think in respect, also this crisis or these multiple crises that we are experiencing provide opportunities, provide an opportunity, for example, to address the situation of access to electricity for health centers. Before the crisis, close to 60% of sub-Saharan Africa health facilities did not have access to, even those that did have access, only 30% had reliable access to electricity. So clearly, this is not only having an impact on access, but more importantly, on the health situation. So the crisis now put this very much at the forefront and offers an opportunity through concerted efforts to address the situation. Similarly, all the efforts, all the innovations that are happening in terms of productive uses of electricity in rural areas provide tremendous opportunity to improve the productivity of agriculture and hence contribute also to addressing the effects of the global food crisis. Finally, the International Energy Agency's latest report highlighted that the cost of universal energy requires $5 billion per year in terms of investments. Now, that is a significant number. Yet again, if we kind of just compare, it is not a huge number. It's not something that cannot be met collectively. And I think this is really the key message from my perspective, that the investments are of the magnitude that they can be matched if we all work together collectively. Ladies and gentlemen, just to highlight, the African Development Bank has placed energy at the very top of the agenda. It's the number one of our so-called for Africa. Africa, precisely because energy is so critically important in all other sectors. And if we don't achieve any energy, in fact, before any of the other energies will materialize by the time frame. In this context, before space delivery, a strong focus on access to energy decent access support us in terms of how policy regulatory frame to allow mini grids to flourish. In this case, we can go on large-scale rollout, national rollout programs, such as the financing of the Nigeria electrification program. And we've also been looking at creating financial instruments and intermediaries that can provide support to companies that might be too small for direct investing by an institution such as the African Development Bank. So, for example, we created deliberately the Facility for Energy Inclusion, also bringing in the required concessional capital in that blended finance structure, including from the European Commission that contributed to the effort as well. So clearly, we are a key partner of the sector. We will continue our investments and intend to increase that forward, working in close partnership with all of you gathered here today. So finally, let me just highlight that the main question from my perspective for this Energy Access Investment Forum, and I think, David, you alluded to it, is how can we achieve the scale required to address the energy access deficit. And I really wish us all very fruitful deliberations over the next 3 days in tackling the question of how can we achieve scale. Because business as usual, despite all the very laudable efforts of all of you here in the audience, will not get us to where we need to get. And I really hope that the clear signal coming from the African world, that the joint commitment of governments, of the private sector, of civil society, and development partners, we can achieve the Sustainable Development Number 7 by 2030. And just to conclude, Nelson Mandela famously said, "It always seems impossible until it's done." And I think in this spirit, let's get it done. Thank you very much.
Daniel, for I must say, it's a rousing speech. I'm quite excited because indeed that is precisely the objective, and also where we, as the Industry Federation, try to do our part to help accelerate that step change, that paradigm shift, with expansion to horizontally energy use sectors on top of the household consumption, vertically addressing more market segments, because indeed business usual is delivering results, I would say, but not yet at that scale that we need it. So we need to do our, say, work so that this sector gets much more investment than already. Speaker that will come to the stage in a moment needs no introduction, but if he allows me, I will still say it is the very honorable Minister Makamba of the Tanzanian government, who is made the time to be with us here today and formally welcome you and open this conference. We are extremely happy to have his presence and see the leadership of the Tanzanian government and the minister in particular in terms of getting the job done in Tanzania. And so with that, I wish you a very warm welcome and please come to the stage.
Thank you very much. Is present here to friend, distinguished participants, observed. It's very good to be here, and welcome here all those who are visiting from overseas. I want to congratulate the organizers for a very successful forum so far. And I think I appreciate the invitation when I got the invitation that we would like you, the minister, to come and attend, or your representative. So when you give an out to the minister, they take it. So because we feel maybe you don't want me to be here, that's where you put the O. So chose to serve seeing the matters, my and policy to me be. So thank you very much for your invitation. That put all your, because we always have the opportunity to represent. But I'm very happy to be here. The forum is important, and any accusation of the donor, we take it. So thank you very much for me here. We're here for people and important subject, which is access to electricity. We always throw numbers on these things, but there are tremendous human stories and transformational stories to do with access to electricity. I'm a member of parliament from a rural constituency. My village got electricity 3 years ago. So in all my life and upbringing in the village, we have never had electricity. We never pushed for it. We never expected it. We didn't agitate for it. It was a normal part of our lives that they simply, and you have to make do with alternatives, which is kerosene-based lighting and other sources of energy, basically no refrigeration, no cooling, and biomass, forth. So we started, and a neighboring village got access. And it is not fair. It has also come here as well. And with enough pressure, did. This is the story of expansion. Success as you expand, more people demand. So the pace of electricity access in Tanzania over the past 10 years has been phenomenal because people are asking for it, agitating for it, demanding access. And we have seen rural transformation in a real sense because of this push for electricity access in rural areas. But then when we got, and when my village got electricity, not every household had the ability to connect. It's probably 20 households in a village of about 400 households. So this is is another is another thing. Now, I visited houses in my village And what did I find? Light. No any other than the bulb. So another story of electrification is literally rural lighting, and the expense with which to the grid, those transformers, cables, end up in lighting the bulb, maybe charging phone. That's it. So maybe energy consumer in the village, the one that create and not to the grid center will probably be emitting that is something the consumption. But also as a but it is rural electrification and rural access to have a transformation impact. If we just flying, then I'm not saying that lighting is not valuable. It because the economic impact of rural education has to be. We are not doing this just to establish a footprint of presence of the grid, all over the map. We're doing this to transform lives, for people to enjoy the comforts and conveniences that the rest of others appliances are. So, just the point number one that I wanted to make, and this was not my speech, but I feel that is important to make. Now, this forum is very important, and I said it. I congratulate the organizers, the European Union, TERA, Alliance for Rural Electrification, and everybody who has put this together, all the sponsors, gold, silver, bronze, AF, the key partner, IRENA, and all important statistics we've had Africans with the increase of rural expansion. In last year, we saw also 12 million Africans had passed compared to the previous year. This is you expect all areas. Reason of there hasn't been sufficient and particular problem only in the actual hard cash, coming in new and is to finance rural electrification. So, and this is extremely important. So I hope they realign and reverse and bring back on track to meet the goal energy access for all. Now, obviously, this is about clean, when the world met in Paris 2015, the energy systems, production and consumption, distribution, was an important part of the climate conversation in Paris. And the world guided that approach in this amateur and all other aspects, but energy was a key component to climate crisis. And it was decided that we'll spend more money, investment in cleaner energy systems. And obviously, between the crisis and energy crisis. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the current expenditure is not sufficient to solve any and all the crises, both crisis, energy crisis in terms of decline access and also cleaner energy. So we need more money, commitment, and innovation, and policy interventions to solve these two crises: energy crisis and climate crisis, where we are encouraging and mentioned the kind of geopolitical situation actually will facilitate increased investment also fuels, because of the price demand. We had drilling, so now look at the find resources and so forth. So there's a danger that next year and the year that follows, when we look at the proportion in global energy investment, actually fossil fuels will be up there, right? So this is something that we can look out for. Yes, this year's International Energy Agency report, which came out last month, I think, told us global energy by the last year, 2.4 billion. News. And further good news is that most of this investment will come from clean energy. But this is not evenly distributed. This growth in clean energy is concentrated in advanced economies and China and India. If you look at the rest of us, it's been flat since Paris. So we need to talk about that, to make sure that this growth is consistent and proportionate across economies. Good news, there's an increase in clean energy investment. Bad news, not evenly distributed. So to think about that. And we have a lot of work to do to make sure that we change this course. And by the way, one also important findings in the report is the fastest growth in energy investment is actually coming in the power sector and mainly in renewables and grid. So this is also good news, right? If you look at the proportion of growth in the energy investment coming from power sector and mostly in renewables and grid. So we have an ingredients for success here. We have a momentum which we need to advance. And what can we do? The usual stuff. Fiscal support from government, co-financing, patient capital, legal and regulatory alignment to allow for investments and so forth, and so stuff that we are talking here, or we want to be talking about. How do we facilitate more investment into this area? Interested to as well. Hopefully, energy power is a commodity, is a casual commodity, but it's uncoupled by technology and innovation. And as you know, the value that is consumed all the years, how it's distributed, how it's did, is a function of also technological aspect. And even the popularity, price, and all renewable have been a result of a lot of and a lot of also innovation in commerce, in commercial. So this is an area which I expect to hear, and in an area that we look forward to, and battery and battery storage will be a game changer in the future of energy and renewables and mini grids and off grids. And one of the areas in which technology will be key will be, and also one of the areas in which rural energy access will rely on, will be storage. We see tremendous progress in this area. Now, there's a disconnect in the sense that battery and battery storage and technology and advancement rely on critical minerals, which are here in Tanzania: graphite, cobalt, so forth. Right? The whole renewable energy movement generally will rely on critical minerals, which are here. But the spread of renewables is faster, more advanced in areas in which these critical minerals are not. So we have to, talk about what's going on here, right? I don't want to name countries, but those who've done very well over the past number of years on PV, solar, and battery, and have found minerals elsewhere, right? Where solar and batteries are not. But we need to talk this, and I think it is possible as well. If you look, I come there when I go, not much. When I go to my village, there's an area called Mkata, called Sisi, massive graphite minerals, and you can see the activities, the trucks, and all the. And globally, over the last year, there's been a 30% increase in exploration of these critical minerals. So that tells you where the world is going in renewables. If there's a signal, that is one as well. But we hope for sustainable mining and share not only on resources, money, royalties, and carbon minerals, but the final products as well. So now, as a country, as a government, we are determined to advance access to energy for all. We've done very well over the last 10 years. Our rural electrification numbers are very impressive. We still have a lot of work to do, but we have rural energy, which is, I think, one of the best organizations in Africa in terms of what they do. Different models to do this, to attract, and some of the people on board, our contractors, rural electrification, they're doing good work. We are determined to stay the course and to provide example in Africa on how to do that properly. Obviously, our terrain is difficult. We have a huge number of islands. We have lakes, like Nyasa, Tanganyika, Victoria, and Victoria has in itself, I think, 40 islands. Indian Ocean as well, and this all it's not easy. It's been difficult because the I want to put it correctly. Tariff has to be a solution now for that to be a business, unless at some point there. But this tariff has to be different. And for us in politics, people would say, why am I paying more than in Dar es Salaam, right? Who is connected to the grid? And you have to have a political communication there. This off-grid meaning, for now, has to be this way. Now, the question is, does it really have to be that way? That's the question for us as well, because the narrative is that the mini grid or solution is expensive. Right? Did I say something? All right, this is my assistant. So that's one dimension that we need to talk about. We as a country, we have a natural resource base to provide mini grid and off-grid solutions. The regulatory setup allows for private sector investment in these areas. In fact, encourages private sector investment. We have a professional regulator here who is transparent and knows how to do it properly. So now, before I conclude, I have to talk about cooking. Right? For those who know me, they know that I can't finish a speech without talking clean. The grid, off-grid, all these are beautiful things, but eventually in every household, one denominator between a billionaire in Tanzania and a pauper is that in every household, at least one dimension of energy consumption has to be, which is cooking. A poor person may not have cooling or refrigeration or washing or ironing, but they must cook. Right? So energy consumption is in every household in this country is a cooking energy. Now, it's making a huge difference in quality of life on how people cook. Actually, even in life expectancy, right? If you cook where you have kerosene or biomass, where you have CO2 coming out and filling the room, not the room, the entire house, with children in, pregnant women in there, you might have a family with very low expectancy. With so part of the issue of social justice, issue of quality is clean cooking. Now, can solar in a village advance clean cooking? Whether electricity advance? Of course not. No cooks in a solar cooker. That's the reality. We would wish to get there, but we're not there yet. So, if we talk rural energy, this quality of life, we have to talk about clean cooking. Because eventually in every house, it must be cooked. People must cook. And for me, this is a very important matter. If you're an energy minister in Africa, in Tanzania, for instance, and then look at your energy profile of a country, right? For Tanzania, 80% of energy is biomass. If you look at where the energy is consumed, it's in transport, is it? No, it's in household, right? The 70% of energy consumption in Tanzania is in households. Right? In countries, it's in transport, it's in factory. In Tanzania, it's in household. And in households, what is it for? Is it cooling? Is it refrigeration? No, it's cooking. So, in some of your countries, the type of cooking that we do it here, you stopped it in 1894, right? Here, still today, more like to mature a baby because of how you cook. So think about that.
Thank you very much for this insightful speech. I think on behalf of the private sector, we can only agree that we do our very best to develop versatile solutions to scale up and meet all these requirements from the grid clean cooking. And we look forward to deepening that commitment. We are running a little bit late, but I would like to invite our high-level opening speakers for a very short family picture to be followed by a panel by Mr. Festus Gakwo. So if you can take a picture with the minister, and then we go to the high-level panel. Thank you so much.